Before a jet engine is allowed to carry you anywhere, somebody has to shoot a chicken into it. Not as a prank, not as a stunt. It's a federal certification requirement, and if the engine fails the test, it never flies. And that's not even the weird part. The same engine also has to survive blowing itself apart, on purpose, at full power, while cameras roll. You've probably flown on a plane, maybe dozens of times, and the whole time, hanging under the wing, was a machine that earned its place there by eating birds and exploding in a test cell somewhere. So why are engineers firing poultry out of cannons? And what happens when a bird meets an engine for real? Let's start with the problem nobody thinks about. The sky is not empty. Right now, while you're watching this, there are birds sharing airspace with airliners all over the world. In the United States alone, pilots report more than 15,000 wildlife strikes every single year. Most of them are harmless. A thud, a smear, a grossed out ground crew. But an engine is different. An engine is basically a giant vacuum with spinning blades at the front, and it does not get to choose what it inhales. Here's the physics that makes this scary. A bird by itself is soft, feathers, hollow bones, a couple of pounds of meat. You could hold one in your hand. But speed changes everything. When a plane is climbing out at 250 miles per hour and a bird is coming the other way, the impact energy doesn't add up gently. It scales with the square of the speed. Double the speed, 4 times the energy. So that soft little bird stops being a bird. It hits like a cannonball. A single goose can strike a fan blade with more force than a sledgehammer, swung as hard as a human being can swing it. And the blade, it's hitting. That blade is spinning so fast its tip is moving faster than the speed of sound. Now here's the question that should bother you. If a bird can hit that hard, why don't planes fall out of the sky constantly? Because engineers assumed the worst from the beginning. They didn't design engines hoping birds would stay away. They designed engines knowing birds wouldn't. And then, they built a machine to prove it. It's called a chicken gun. And yes, that's basically its real name. Engineers have called it the chicken cannon, the rooster booster. It's a long pneumatic cannon, powered by compressed air, and it fires bird carcasses at flight speeds into running jet engines, windshields, and wing panels. Quick detour, because you've probably heard the famous story, the one where a test lab borrows a chicken gun, fires a chicken, and it smashes straight through the windshield, through the pilot's seat and into the back wall. And the answer comes back. Thor the chicken. It's a great story. It's also a myth. It's been told about trains, planes, and half a dozen countries, and nobody has ever traced it to a real event. But hidden inside the joke is a real engineering rule. Frozen birds are not allowed in these tests. A frozen bird is a solid block, and real birds aren't solid blocks. The test has to match reality. Real bird, real weight, real squish. Because the whole point of the test is honesty. You're not trying to pass, you're trying to find out the truth about your engine before 300 passengers do. But before the test makes sense, you need to know one thing about how a modern jet engine actually breathes. Because it's probably not what you think. That giant fan at the front, the one you see spinning when you board, most of the air it grabs never touches fire at all. It gets thrown straight around the outside of the engine in a cold, fast river called bypass air. And that river is what actually pushes the plane. Only a small fraction of the air goes into the hot core, where it's squeezed, ignited, and blasted out the back to keep the fan spinning. On the biggest modern engines, for every 1 part of air that goes through the core, 8 or 9 parts go around it. And that layout, completely by accident, is a survival feature. Because when a bird gets pulled in, it usually follows the crowd. Most of the mess gets flung outward with the bypass air and shot straight out the back, never reaching the delicate machinery in the core. The engine's own design gives the bird an exit ramp. Engineers didn't invent bypass air to fight birds. They invented it for fuel efficiency and quiet. The bird protection came free, but engineers don't trust free. They verify it. So what does the test actually look like? Picture a jet engine bolted into a concrete test cell, screaming at full takeoff power. High-speed cameras everywhere, filming thousands of frames per second. Then the cannon fires. The bird crosses the gap in a few milliseconds, and the fan blades do something almost unbelievable. They carve the bird into slices before it even reaches the core. Each blade takes its cut as it sweeps past like the world's fastest deli slicer. What comes out the back is basically a mist. And the engine is not allowed to just survive. The rules are stricter than that. Aviation regulators, like the FAA in the United States, set tiers. For flocks of small and medium birds, the engine has to keep producing thrust, not limp along, keep flying the plane. For a single large bird, the biggest thing the engine is expected to meet, the standard changes. The engine is allowed to die, but it has to die politely. No fire, no flying shrapnel, no pieces escaping the casing. It has to shut down in a controlled, contained, boring way. And that idea, dying politely, is the real engineering story here. Because think about what a fan blade actually is. A modern fan blade is a piece of titanium or carbon fiber composite, sculpted more precisely than a Formula One part, spinning thousands of times per minute. At full power, the force trying to rip one blade out of its hub is measured in tons, dozens of tons, on one blade. So engineers ask the darkest question they could think of. What if a blade lets go? They don't guess, they test it. It's called the fan blade-off test, and it might be the most violent thing in all of engineering certification. Engineers take a brand new engine, worth tens of millions of dollars, run it to maximum power, and then deliberately blow a fan blade loose using a small explosive charge. On purpose. A blade weighing as much as a person's leg, moving faster than sound, suddenly free, and the engine case has to catch it. All of it, nothing gets out. How do you catch something like that? Not with thicker steel. Steel that thick would be too heavy to fly. Instead, engineers wrap the fan case in materials like Kevlar, the same family of fibers, used in bulletproof vests. The case isn't trying to stop the blade like a wall, it's trying to catch it like a net. The fibers stretch, absorb the energy, and hold the wreckage inside, while the engine tears itself apart internally. The engine is destroyed, the airplane is fine, that's the deal. That's the whole philosophy. The engine is sacrificial. The passengers are not. Now think about what these tests cost. A single modern jet engine can run $20, $30, $40 million. The blade-off test destroys one, completely, on purpose, and it's not optional, and you don't get partial credit. If a fragment escapes the case, you fail, you redesign, you build another engine, and you destroy that one too. Engine programs have been delayed for years and burned through fortunes at exactly this step, which tells you something about how seriously aviation takes it. Somewhere, an accountant signed off on exploding a machine worth more than a private island, because the alternative, finding out at 35,000 feet, is not a price anyone is willing to pay. Every safety rule in aviation gets described the same way, written in blood. The bird rules are no different. They exist because early jets did lose engines to birds, sometimes with terrible results, and each failure got dissected, understood, and turned into a harder test for the next generation of engines. Does it work in the real world? January 15th, 2009. US Airways. Flight 1549 takes off from LaGuardia in New York and climbs straight into a flock of Canada geese. Not one bird, a flock. Both engines ingest geese far heavier than the small bird's engines routinely shrug off, and both engines lose thrust. This is close to the worst-case scenario in commercial aviation. And here's what didn't happen. The engines didn't explode. They didn't throw blades through the cabin. They didn't catch fire and burn through the wing. They died politely, exactly the way the certification demanded, which gave Captain Sullenberger a gliding airplane instead of a fireball. He put it down on the Hudson River, and all 155 people on board survived. The water landing made him famous. But the reason there was a landing at all? Part of that story was written years earlier, in a test cell, with a chicken gun. And the testing never really stops evolving, because the threat doesn't. Engines keep getting bigger. Fan diameters today are wider than the entire fuselage of some early airliners, which means a bigger mouth swallowing more air, and statistically, more birds. Bird populations near airports shift. Regulators have pushed standards to account for larger birds, over time, for exactly that reason. Meanwhile, airports fight the other side of the battle, with radar that tracks flocks, trained falcons, even border collies, whose entire job is chasing geese off runways. It's a two-front war. Keep birds away from planes, and make sure planes can take the hit when they don't. There's one more twist worth knowing. The chicken gun doesn't just protect engines. Cockpit windshields get shot too, because a bird through the windshield at climb speed is a very bad day. Wing leading edges, tail surfaces. If a bird can hit it, somebody has fired a bird at it in a lab first. The entire front of the aircraft you fly on has been pre-attacked, on the ground, by engineers whose job is to lose arguments with physics before you're ever involved. And this is the part I think is genuinely beautiful about engineering, once you see it. Amateurs design things to work. Professionals design things to fail. Safely, predictably, on their terms. A jet engine isn't certified because it's perfect. It's certified because engineers spent years finding every horrible thing that could happen to it, and then made each one of those things survivable. They shot birds at it, they exploded it, they froze it, soaked it, choked it with hail and volcanic dust in other tests, and only when it died politely every single time did anyone bolt it to a wing. So the next time you're in a window seat, look out at that engine. It looks calm, almost boring, a big, quiet tube. But that tube has already been through things no engine on your flight will ever face. Because before that engine was allowed to carry you anywhere, somebody shot a chicken into it, and the engine won.